Welcome back to our channel. Have you ever known exactly what you wanted to say in English, but when it was time to speak, your mind suddenly went blank? The words disappeared. Your confidence disappeared, and you froze. If this has happened to you, don't worry. You are not alone. Millions of English learners face this problem every day. They understand English, they study English, but when it comes to speaking, they become nervous, overthink, and struggle to express themselves. The good news is that this problem can be fixed. In today's video, you will learn why people freeze while speaking English, how to stop translating in your head, how to train your mouth to speak naturally, and how to build the confidence to speak smoothly without fear. If you apply these lessons consistently, you will stop overthinking, stop freezing, and start speaking English with much more confidence and fluency. So stay with me until the end, because this video could completely change the way you speak English. Now let's begin. Part 1. Why your mind goes blank. When speaking English, have you ever experienced this situation? You are sitting alone and thinking about English. You know many words. You understand grammar. You can read English. You can even understand English videos. But the moment someone asks you a question in English, something strange happens. Your mind suddenly goes blank. The words disappear. The sentences disappear. And you freeze. Many English learners experience this problem. In fact, it is one of the most common struggles in language learning. The good news is that this problem does not mean you are bad at English. It does not mean you are not intelligent. It does not mean you cannot become fluent. It simply means you have not yet trained your brain to use English comfortably under pressure. Let's understand why this happens. The first reason is fear of making mistakes. Many learners put enormous pressure on themselves. Before speaking, they think, what if my grammar is wrong? What if I pronounce something incorrectly? What if people laugh at me? What if I sound foolish? These thoughts create anxiety, and anxiety affects performance. Imagine trying to write neatly while someone is shouting at you. It becomes difficult. The same thing happens when fear is shouting inside your mind. Instead of focusing on communication, your brain focuses on avoiding mistakes. And when that happens, speaking becomes harder. The truth is that mistakes are a normal part of learning. Every fluent English speaker made thousands of mistakes. Every native speaker made mistakes when learning language as a child. Mistakes are not the enemy. Fear of mistakes is the enemy. Another reason learners freeze is overthinking. Many people try to create perfect sentences before they speak. Someone asks a simple question, "What did you do today?" Instead of answering naturally, the learner starts analyzing. They think about grammar. They think about vocabulary. They think about pronunciation. They think about whether the sentence sounds perfect. Meanwhile, the conversation is waiting. This creates pressure, and pressure creates freezing. Imagine driving a car. When you first learn, you think about every movement. The steering wheel, the mirrors, the pedals, everything requires attention. But after enough practice, driving becomes automatic. Speaking English works the same way. The more you practice, the less you analyze. The less you analyze, the more naturally you speak. Another major reason people freeze is lack of speaking practice. Many learners spend years studying English. They read books, they watch videos, they learn grammar, but they rarely speak. As a result, they develop knowledge without developing speaking skill. Think about basketball. You can watch basketball for years. You can read books about basketball. You can understand every rule. But if you never play, your skills will remain limited. English speaking is no different. Speaking is a skill. Skills improve through use. The more you speak, the easier speaking becomes. The less you speak, the more difficult it feels. This is why many learners can understand English very well but still struggle to speak. Their input skills are stronger than their output skills. They have trained their ears. But they have not trained their mouths enough. Now let's talk about another important reason. Many learners try to translate everything. Someone asks a question. First, they hear English. Then, they translate it into their native language. Then, they think of an answer in their native language. Then, they translate the answer into English. Finally, they speak. This process takes time. And because conversations move quickly, learners feel pressure. The pressure causes panic, and panic causes freezing. Imagine using a computer with too many programs running at the same time. Eventually, the computer slows down. Translation creates a similar problem in your brain. Too many processes are happening at once. The solution is learning to think more directly in English. We will discuss that in the next lesson. Now let's discuss confidence. Many learners believe confidence comes before speaking. They think, when I become confident, I will speak. But confidence usually comes after speaking. The first conversation feels difficult. The second conversation feels slightly easier. The 10th conversation feels better. The 100th conversation feels natural. Confidence grows through experience, not through waiting. Imagine a person learning to swim. Would they become confident by standing beside the pool and thinking about swimming? No. Confidence comes from entering the water. Speaking confidence works exactly the same way. You build confidence by speaking, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when you make mistakes, even when you feel nervous. Another truth many learners need to hear is this. People are usually paying much less attention to your mistakes than you think. Most people are focused on themselves. Most people are not analyzing every word you say. And many people actually admire learners who are brave enough to speak a new language. The fear of judgment is often much larger than the reality. Now imagine two learners. The first learner waits until their English feels perfect. The second learner speaks despite mistakes. Who improves faster? Almost always the second learner. Because speaking creates experience. Experience creates confidence. Confidence creates fluency. The first learner remains trapped, waiting for the perfect moment. The second learner keeps growing. This is the path to speaking without freezing. Stop expecting perfection. Stop fearing mistakes. Stop overanalyzing every sentence. Focus on communication. Focus on expressing ideas. Focus on practice. Remember, your goal is not to speak perfect English. Your goal is to communicate. Every sentence you speak is progress. Every conversation is practice. Every mistake is a lesson. And every time you speak despite fear, you become a stronger English speaker. So if your mind goes blank sometimes, do not panic. Do not think something is wrong with you. It is a normal part of the learning process. Keep practicing. Keep speaking. Keep moving forward. Because fluency is not built by staying silent. Fluency is built one conversation at a time. And the more you practice, the less often you will freeze, and the more naturally English will begin to flow. Part 2. Stop translating every sentence. One of the biggest reasons English learners freeze while speaking is because they try to translate every sentence. This habit may seem normal. In fact, almost every beginner does it. Someone asks a simple question in English. Your brain hears the question. Then it translates the question into your native language. Next, you think of an answer in your native language. Then you try to translate your answer into English. Finally, you speak. This entire process happens in just a few seconds. But those few seconds feel like forever during a conversation. The result is hesitation, slow responses, nervousness, and eventually freezing. The truth is that translation is one of the biggest obstacles to fluency. Think about a professional driver. When they drive a car, they do not stop and analyze every movement. They do not think, now I will move my foot. Now I will turn the steering wheel. Now I will look in the mirror. Everything happens naturally. Why? Because they have practiced so much that the skill has become automatic. English fluency works the same way. Fluent speakers are not translating every sentence. They are thinking directly in English. And that is exactly what you must learn to do. Now let's be realistic. You cannot stop translating overnight. Your brain has spent years using your native language. It is normal for translation to happen at first. The goal is not to eliminate translation immediately. The goal is to reduce it gradually. Think of it as training a new habit. The first step is learning to think in simple English. Most learners try to think in complicated English too soon. That creates frustration. Instead, start with very simple thoughts. When you wake up in the morning, think, I am awake. I need to get up. I am tired. I am going to brush my teeth. These are simple sentences, but they train your brain to operate in English. As you move through the day, continue the exercise. When you eat breakfast, think, this tastes good. I like this food. I need some water. When you go outside, think, the weather is nice. It is sunny today. I am going to work. These small thoughts may seem insignificant, but they are extremely powerful. Why? Because they build a direct connection between ideas in English. You stop depending on translation. You start thinking naturally. Another powerful exercise is describing your surroundings. Look around your room. Then describe everything you see in English. For example, there is a table. The table is brown. My phone is on the table. The room is quiet. The window is open. Again, these sentences are simple, but simplicity is your friend. Many learners avoid simple English because they think fluency means using difficult vocabulary. That is not true. Fluency begins with simple language. Simple English spoken smoothly is far more useful than advanced English spoken with hesitation. Another common mistake learners make is trying to translate entire paragraphs. Imagine someone asks, "What did you do yesterday?" Many learners immediately create a long answer in their native language. Then they try to convert everything into English. This creates stress. Instead, train yourself to answer directly in English. For example, I worked. I studied English. I watched a movie. I spent time with my family. Simple answers create confidence. Confidence creates fluency. And fluency allows you to build longer answers later. Another reason translation creates problems is speed. Real conversations move quickly. People do not pause for 30 seconds after every sentence. If you depend on translation, conversations feel overwhelming. The brain struggles to keep up. But when you think directly in English, communication becomes faster. You spend less energy converting languages. and more energy expressing ideas. Let's imagine two learners. The first learner translates everything, every question, every answer, every conversation. The second learner practices thinking in English every day. After several months, who speaks more smoothly? The second learner. Not because they are smarter, not because they know more grammar, but because their brain has learned to work directly in English. This is an important point. Fluency is not only about knowledge. Fluency is also about speed. Your brain must learn to access English quickly. Thinking in English helps develop that speed. Now let's discuss self-talk. Self-talk is one of the best tools for reducing translation. Talk to yourself throughout the day. Describe your actions. Describe your plans. Describe your thoughts. The more English you produce, the stronger the English pathway in your brain becomes. Eventually, thinking in English begins to feel normal. At first, you may only manage a few words, then a few sentences, then entire conversations with yourself. This is progress. Do not underestimate it. Many fluent speakers developed this habit long before they became fluent. Another important truth is that mistakes are okay. When you start thinking in English, your sentences will not always be perfect. That is completely normal. Do not stop because of mistakes. The goal is communication, not perfection. Remember how children learn language. They make countless mistakes, but they continue speaking. And because they continue speaking, they improve. You must do the same. Every day, challenge yourself to spend a little more time thinking in English. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Gradually increase the amount. Over time, something amazing happens. You begin noticing that answers come faster. Conversations feel easier. Speaking feels smoother. You freeze less often. Why? Because your brain is no longer translating every sentence. It is communicating directly. That is the path to natural fluency. So stop trying to build every sentence in your native language first. Start building the habit of thinking directly in English. Keep it simple, keep it consistent, and trust the process. Because the less you translate, the more naturally English will flow from your mind to your mouth. And that is one of the biggest secrets to speaking English without freezing. Part 3. Train your mouth to speak automatically. One of the biggest misunderstandings about English fluency is that people think fluency happens only in the mind. They believe that if they learn enough vocabulary and grammar, speaking will automatically become easy. But that is not how speaking works. Speaking is not only a mental skill, it is also a physical skill. Your mouth, tongue, lips, and voice must learn how to work together naturally in English. This is why many learners understand English very well but still struggle to speak smoothly. Their brain knows the words, but their mouth has not received enough training. Imagine a professional singer. Do you think they become great simply by studying music theory? Of course not. They practice singing, again and again, day after day. Their voice becomes stronger through repetition. The same thing happens with English speaking. Your mouth must be trained through repetition. Many learners spend years reading and listening. These activities are important. But if you rarely speak, your speaking ability develops very slowly. Speaking requires speaking. There is no substitute. Think about a football player. A football player does not become skilled by watching matches all day. Eventually, they must go onto the field and practice. English speaking follows the same rule. The more you speak, the stronger your speaking muscles become. The more you stay silent, the weaker those speaking habits remain. This is why many learners freeze. They know the language, but they have not trained themselves to produce the language quickly. Now let's talk about automatic speaking. What does automatic mean? It means speaking without analyzing every word. It means speaking without constantly searching for grammar rules. It means expressing ideas naturally. Think about your native language. When someone asks a question, you do not spend 30 seconds creating a sentence. The answer comes automatically. Why? Because you have used the language thousands of times. English can become automatic too, but only through repetition. Repetition is one of the most powerful tools in language learning. Many learners avoid repetition because they think it is boring. They constantly search for new lessons, new vocabulary, new techniques. But fluency is often built through repeating the basics. Imagine hearing the phrase, "How are you?" hundreds of times. Eventually, you no longer think about it. The phrase becomes automatic. Now imagine repeating, "I'd like to," "I think that," "in my opinion." What do you mean? These expressions eventually become automatic too. This is why repetition is so valuable. The goal is not simply understanding phrases. The goal is making them automatic. One excellent way to train automatic speaking is through daily repetition practice. Choose a few useful sentences. Repeat them aloud, again and again. For example, "I am learning English. I enjoy practicing every day. I want to improve my speaking." Repeat these sentences until they feel comfortable, then add new ones. Over time, your brain begins storing patterns instead of individual words. This makes speaking much faster. Another powerful technique is shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a speaker and immediately repeating what you hear. This exercise trains several skills at once: listening, pronunciation, speaking speed, confidence. The goal is not perfection. The goal is training your mouth to move naturally in English. At first, shadowing feels difficult. You may struggle to keep up. You may miss words. That is normal. Keep practicing. Every session strengthens your speaking ability. Think about learning a dance. The first time feels awkward. The movements feel unnatural. But after enough repetition, the movements become automatic. Speaking English works exactly the same way. Another important habit is speaking every day. Many learners practice speaking only occasionally. They speak once this week. Then they do nothing for several days. Then they practice again. This inconsistency slows progress. Imagine going to the gym once every 2 weeks. Would you expect strong results? Probably not. Speaking skills need regular exercise. Even 10 minutes a day is valuable. Speak about your plans. Speak about your day. Speak about your goals. Speak about things you enjoy. The topic matters less than the consistency. The important thing is moving your mouth and using English. Another reason people freeze is because they are afraid of sounding imperfect. They want every sentence to be correct. As a result, they hesitate. They stop. They analyze. And the conversation loses momentum. Remember, communication is more important than perfection. A simple sentence spoken confidently is more powerful than a perfect sentence trapped inside your mind. Many learners know much more English than they realize. The problem is not knowledge. The problem is hesitation. Training your mouth helps reduce that hesitation. The more you speak, the less you think. The less you think, the more naturally you communicate. This is exactly what happens with fluent speakers. They are not performing complex grammar calculations during conversations. They're using language patterns they have practiced many times before. You can develop the same ability, but it requires repetition, daily speaking, daily practice, daily exposure. Imagine yourself 1 year from now. You have spent a few minutes speaking every day. You have repeated useful phrases. You have practiced shadowing. You have trained your mouth consistently. How different would your speaking be? How much more confident would you feel? How much less would you freeze? The answer is simple. You would be dramatically better. Not because of talent, not because of luck, but because of repetition. Remember this powerful truth. Your mouth becomes fluent through use. Your confidence grows through practice. Your speaking becomes automatic through repetition. So stop waiting until you feel ready. Start training today. Speak every day. Repeat every day. Practice every day. Because fluency is not created by thinking about English. Fluency is created by speaking English. And every time you open your mouth and practice, you're training yourself to speak more smoothly, more naturally, and with far less freezing. Part 4. Use simple English, not perfect English. One of the biggest reasons people freeze while speaking English is because they are trying to speak perfect English. They want perfect grammar, perfect pronunciation, perfect vocabulary, perfect sentences, perfect fluency. And because they are chasing perfection, they become afraid to speak. Before saying a sentence, they stop and think, is this grammar correct? Am I using the right tense? Is there a better word? Will people notice my mistakes? These questions create pressure, and pressure creates hesitation. Eventually, the learner freezes. The truth is that fluency is not about perfect English. Fluency is about communicating your ideas clearly and confidently. Think about children learning their first language. Children do not speak perfectly. They make grammar mistakes. They use incorrect words. They mispronounce things. Yet they continue speaking. And because they continue speaking, they improve. Now imagine if a child refused to speak until every sentence was perfect. That child would never learn. Many English learners accidentally do exactly that. They wait for perfection before speaking, but perfection never arrives. Because speaking improves through speaking, not through waiting. Let's imagine someone asks you, "What do you like to do in your free time?" Many learners immediately start searching for advanced vocabulary. They want to sound impressive. Meanwhile, their brain becomes overloaded. The conversation slows down. Instead, you could simply say, I like reading books. I enjoy watching movies. I like learning English. Simple, clear, natural, and most importantly, effective. Remember, the goal of communication is understanding, not impressing people. Many learners think fluent speakers constantly use difficult vocabulary. That is not true. In real conversations, fluent speakers often use simple language. They focus on expressing ideas clearly. They focus on keeping the conversation moving. They focus on communication. Simple English is powerful English. Imagine two learners. The first learner knows many advanced words but hesitates constantly. The second learner uses simple vocabulary but speaks smoothly and confidently. Who sounds more fluent? Usually the second learner. Why? Because fluency is not measured by vocabulary difficulty. Fluency is measured by the ability to communicate naturally. Another reason simple English is important is speed. When you use familiar words, your brain works faster. You spend less time searching for vocabulary. You spend less time worrying about mistakes. You can focus on the conversation itself. Think about driving. The more familiar a route becomes, the easier it feels. English works similarly. Simple language creates familiar routes inside your brain. The more familiar the route, the faster communication becomes. Many learners also freeze because they are afraid of making grammar mistakes. They try to remember every grammar rule while speaking. As a result, they become overwhelmed. The reality is that communication often survives small grammar mistakes. If you say, "Yesterday I go to the market," people will still understand your message. Of course, improving grammar is important, but communication comes first. Many learners have the wrong order. They prioritize perfection before communication. A better approach is communicate first, improve gradually. This mindset reduces pressure, and reduced pressure improves fluency. Another powerful habit is simplifying your thoughts. Many learners try to express complex ideas immediately. This creates difficulty. Instead, break ideas into smaller pieces. For example, instead of trying to create one complicated sentence, use several simple sentences. Say, "I enjoy learning English. It helps me communicate. I want to become fluent." 3 simple sentences. Easy to remember. Easy to say. Easy to understand. This approach builds confidence, and confidence reduces freezing. Let's talk about confidence for a moment. Confidence does not come from speaking perfectly. Confidence comes from successfully communicating. Every time someone understands you, confidence grows. Every time you complete a conversation, confidence grows. Every time you express an idea, confidence grows. These experiences matter much more than perfect grammar. Another mistake learners make is comparing themselves to native speakers. They hear a native speaker use advanced vocabulary and complicated expressions. Then they feel inadequate. But remember, native speakers have often used English their entire lives. You do not need to sound exactly like them today. Your goal is progress, not perfection. Focus on becoming better than you were yesterday. That is enough. Many successful English learners followed this exact path. They started with simple English, very simple English. They built confidence through communication. Then their vocabulary expanded naturally. Then their grammar improved naturally. Then their fluency grew naturally. Everything started with simple communication. This is why simple English should never be underestimated. Simple English allows you to speak. Speaking creates experience. Experience creates confidence. Confidence creates fluency. And fluency eventually leads to more advanced language. The journey begins with simplicity. Every day, remind yourself, I do not need perfect English. I need useful English. I do not need perfect grammar. I need communication. I do not need difficult words. I need clear words. These reminders can transform your mindset, because many learners are already capable of much more communication than they realize. The problem is not lack of knowledge. The problem is unrealistic expectations. Stop demanding perfection from yourself. Allow yourself to be a learner. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to use simple English. And most importantly, allow yourself to speak. Because speaking simple English confidently will always take you further than staying silent while waiting for perfect English. The more you communicate, the more fluent you become. And the more fluent you become, the less often you freeze. So choose communication over perfection. Choose action over hesitation. Choose simple English over silence. And watch how much easier speaking becomes. Part 5. How to keep talking when you forget words. One of the biggest reasons learners freeze is because they believe they must know every word. The moment they forget one word, they panic. The conversation stops. Their confidence drops, and they become silent. But here is an important truth. Fluent speakers do not always know every word either. The difference is that they know how to continue speaking. Imagine you forget the word umbrella. Many learners would stop immediately. A confident speaker would simply say, "It is the thing people use when it rains." The conversation continues. Communication continues. This is the skill you must develop. Do not focus on finding the perfect word. Focus on explaining the idea. If you forget a word, describe it. Use simple English. Use examples. Use other words. Keep talking. Another useful habit is learning conversation-saving phrases. When you need a few seconds to think, say, "Let me think." That's a good question. How can I explain this? What I mean is, these phrases help you stay calm and keep the conversation moving. Remember, conversations are not exams. Nobody expects you to know every word. The goal is communication, not perfection. The more you practice speaking, the easier it becomes to find different ways to express yourself. And the more flexible you become, the less often you freeze. So the next time you forget a word, do not stop. Do not panic. Take a breath. Explain the idea another way. Keep talking. Because fluency is not knowing every word. Fluency is continuing the conversation even when words are missing. Part 6. The confidence formula for speaking naturally. Now let's talk about the final secret to speaking English without freezing. Confidence. Many learners think confidence comes first. They believe, "When I become confident, I will speak." But the truth is the opposite. Speaking creates confidence. Every time you speak, you gain experience. Every time you gain experience, you become more comfortable. Every time you become more comfortable, your confidence grows. Think about riding a bicycle. The first day feels scary. The second day feels a little easier. After enough practice, you ride without thinking. English works exactly the same way. Confidence is built through repetition. The more you speak, the less you fear speaking. The more conversations you have, the more natural English becomes. This is why daily practice is so important. Speak every day, even if it is only for a few minutes. Talk about your day. Talk about your plans. Talk about your goals. Talk to yourself if necessary. The important thing is using English consistently. Another important lesson is accepting mistakes. Many learners fear mistakes so much that they stop speaking. But mistakes are part of the journey. Every fluent speaker made thousands of mistakes. Mistakes are not proof that you are failing. They are proof that you are learning. The people who become fluent are not the people who avoid mistakes. They are the people who continue despite mistakes. So stop waiting for perfect confidence. Stop waiting for perfect English. Start speaking with the English you already know. Use simple sentences. Use simple words. Focus on communication. Trust the process. Because confidence is not something you find. Confidence is something you build. One conversation at a time. One sentence at a time. One day at a time. And if you continue practicing, the day will come when speaking English feels natural, comfortable, and effortless. That is how you stop freezing. That is how you become fluent. And that is how you become a confident English speaker. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.